Welcome to a special edition of Taking Stock. I'm Amanda Lang. Coming up, to tackle climate change, Canada's economy is headed for a seismic shift. How to make the most of it. Plus, from clean cars to storing electricity, the technology we need to get there. And we could save a whole lot of energy by using it more efficiently. How to pluck the low-hanging fruit while we can. That's all ahead. But first, Canada has a big challenge ahead when it comes to transitioning our economy to a more sustainable one. Here's a look at Canada's goals for a green transition by the numbers. First, the plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 40% below 2005 levels and hit that target in just 8 years by 2030. Our federal government is spending a lot to try to get there, including $9.1 billion in new investments. That includes $2.9 billion in charging infrastructure to get us into electric cars. That's the only way to meet another ambitious target, that 100% of new cars sold by 2035 be zero emission. Making buildings more efficient gets $1 billion. And a promise to introduce a new clean electricity standard comes with $850 million of investments into clean energy like wind and solar. One of the biggest goals of all, getting our oil and gas sector to net zero by 2050. To meet our overall targets, oil and gas has to see emissions fall to 31% of 2005 levels, or about 42% of pre-pandemic levels. Well, there's no question that Canada faces some unique challenges when it comes to evolving our economy beyond fossil fuels. Our oil and gas sector is the single largest emitter in the country, accounting for 27% of our greenhouse gas. Transportation's pretty big too, though, at 24%. COVID threw a bit of a wrench in the works. Overall, GHGs fell in Canada as people stayed home and traveled less, but scarcity has made oil more valuable than ever and harder to picture weaning off of. Tom Rand is managing partner of ArcTern Ventures. Tom, great to have you with us.
Good to be here.
So we do have ambitious goals here, as do some other countries. I want to start with whether you feel like they are reasonable and reachable in terms of what the government of today has laid out where we need to get.
Well, they're reasonable from the perspective of having some ambition that might get us toward maybe a 2.5 or 3 degree target. Will we reach them? I doubt it. But it is important for us to begin to have a kind of stretch goals that really empower business leaders to step up and take a lead on it and punish the laggards with sticks. So I think the goal is hard enough that it will focus our minds on just how hard it's going to be to reduce climate risk, being we're so late to the game.
We are late to the game globally. Canada's done some bold things, and I will say again, we're not out in front on anything. Other countries have done this too. But for instance, there's no cars that aren't zero emission after 2035. That's pretty aggressive. Do you think we get there, and how important is it to make that kind of bold and decisive kind of line in the sand that says, figure out how it's going to work, but this is what's going to happen?
Yeah, from a regulatory perspective, I think that's dead on target. I mean, EVs account for 10% of global sales of new vehicles now. And, skeptics were pointing out, it wouldn't be, even low single digits in a decade. And so I think the EV sector is ramping up very, very quickly. And that electric F-150 is coming to market. So, yeah, I think it's doable. It needs to be matched by some infrastructure. But that's absolutely doable because it has an economic value and consumers want it. I think the other things that are doable that are sort of silver linings our corporate leaders are stepping up, right? There's a lot of low-hanging fruit on the efficiency side. Companies like CapREIT, I mean, they've made a strategic decision on all asset renewables in all their buildings, the big multi-residential buildings, to go net zero. And they're taking paybacks of sort of between 5 and 8 years to get that done. They wouldn't have done that 2 years ago. But a 5 to 8 year payback means you're actually getting paid to reduce carbon. So there's a lot of those kinds of opportunities in the nooks and crannies of our economy. And I think business leaders are now empowered to find them, and find them they are.
And Tom, one of the reasons we like to talk to you is that you're actually in there investing in this space. In other words, you're trying to actually figure out how the returns fit into the overall policy picture and the laws of the day. And that's important because we could throw money at this problem endlessly, but it has to be practical at the end of the day. Do you think that there are places that we're spending that aren't practical? And I guess I'm actually going to steer you to hydrogen. That we're making a big bet in Canada on hydrogen. Will that be a lot of tax dollars that might not pan out, or do you feel good about that?
Yeah, no, I feel like blue hydrogen, which you sort of, you produce hydrogen from natural gas and then you sequester the CO2 underground. Very niche opportunity, yet we're making big strategic bets on it. I mean, what are you going to do with hydrogen? that's landlocked in Alberta that can be produced anywhere using electricity for roughly the same kind of cost. So I don't find that strategy to be economically compelling. I find it a bit of a distraction. I think the action is going to be in EVs, electrification, solid-state distributed electrical systems. I mean, I think the real opportunity, frankly, is in electricity. We have to roughly double electrical output to electrify the things we need to electrify by sort of 2040 timeframe. That's an absolutely enormous lift, and that's where the economic opportunity lies, those who are able to produce clean electricity and use it in different ways. So the hydrogen thing, to me, yeah, I think it's a bit of a distraction, and I don't understand how anybody's going to make money on it, frankly.
All right, and we are going to talk a little later about some of the technologies that'll help get us there in terms of the electrification. I do want to ask you, not a lot of time, Tom, but do you worry that we're not really ready for the dislocations that'll come? We have a massive oil and gas sector. It has, over our history, been very wealthy and very much a source of our collective wealth. Are we ready to turn that off?
No, we're not. And the fact that we're planning on spending public money on the order of tens of billions of dollars to throw money at carbon capture and sequestration indicates how captured we are by that source of energy. So no, I don't think we're prepared. I think what we need to talk about, though, is how many jobs are at stake. I mean, it's low single digits in terms of employment in that sector. And the clean tech sector, the small and medium-sized enterprises I invest in, already employs more people. And so I think the economic opportunity is cranking that new sector up and exporting solutions to the rest of the world, rather than continuing to be distracted by the political heft of those who are the existing energy majors. They're not going to be the energy majors in 20, 30 years. And so we need to find out who the new ones are going to be and support them.
Tom, always good to have you. Appreciate your time.
Happy to be here.
Tom Rand is managing partner at ArcTern Ventures. Coming up, getting people to change our habits can happen slowly or it can happen fast, but how we do it could make a big difference in our future.